In today's video, are you not eating enough food to lose body fat? Have you entered into starvation mode? Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com, and in today's video I want to address the idea of entering a phase where our bodies prevent fat loss. Now, it's a common term we call starvation mode. However, I got a great question right here from one of you guys on my YouTube comments. So if you have questions for me, you can go to my Instagram direct message, leave me a comment, I'll answer it. Let me put it here so we can address it. I've heard trainers tell people that if they're not losing weight, it's possible they're not eating enough. You may already have videos about this, but maybe you can answer it here. What are your thoughts about that? So the term starvation mode, the idea that we're not eating enough to lose weight, comes from what happens after long-term caloric restriction. And what actually happens is that it becomes unpredictable, because despite the fact that we are eating very low calories and we are very active, burning a lot of calories throughout the day, there is no weight loss happening. But I want to explain the mechanics of how we get there and why there is no such thing as starvation mode. Otherwise, no one would ever starve to death, right? But the idea of starvation mode comes from long-term caloric restriction, because what many of us are able to do now is actually account for how many calories we are taking in through tracking our diet. So we simply plug some information into an app and we know that, hey, we're eating 1,200 calories. Next thing you do is you go, well, I did some cardio today. I burned 500 calories doing cardio. I went to the gym and I exercised. I also know my basal metabolic rate, just my baseline, is about 1,800 calories per day. So you add that all up and you go, man, I'm in a 1,000 calorie deficit between my diet and my daily activity and my basal metabolic rate, and I'm not losing weight. My body has entered starvation mode. What actually is happening is something a little bit more dynamic than that. When you've been restricting calories for long periods of time, your body does adapt. It's called adaptive thermogenesis. It's a protective measure that we don't burn through our body fat and burn through our calories and get to a place where we are malnourished and going to die. So it starts to slow down these processes. Metabolism is a way that determines if we should be burning through calories quickly. If you're able to consume a lot of food and you're very active, you're gonna be said to have a great metabolism, okay? But as you lose body fat, your metabolism actually slows down naturally. So obese people actually have wonderful metabolisms, because to keep that weight on, they have to consume tons of food, and their body gets very good at just maintaining their weight at that level. So when we can eat less food and not be able to lose weight, some of us start to feel like, man, I'm in starvation mode. The other thing is the expectation of your basal metabolic rate is just based on a calculation, right? It's not an exact number. So you can punch some numbers in. In fact, I have a calculator for you guys. If you go to ProPhysiqueMacros.com, you can plug in a bunch of information. It'll give you your macros, some meals that you can use for whatever goal, weight loss, muscle building. But those are calculations based on your age, your height, your weight, your body fat percentage, etc. Those calculations don't take into account your history of dieting. If you've dieted before, if you've restricted calories, you've likely impacted your basal metabolic rate, your metabolism, and so that number is going to be less. If your expected basal metabolic rate is 1,800 calories a day, but you have some adaptation from a history of dieting, well, you might only be at 1,000. So there's 800 calories right there that you weren't accounting for, that you're actually not burning throughout the day. Likewise, if you've been exercising frequently, doing cardio, things like this, well, you adapt to that. You get more efficient. Now, that sounds like a good thing, and it is a great thing if you're trying to get better at cardio. But if you're trying to get better at fat loss, efficiency for cardio and exercise means you're burning less calories in that time spent. Likewise, if I said you were burning 400 calories during a cardio session, but you actually measured it with a device that they use in a lab, you might only find out you're burning 200 calories. So now it starts to make a clearer picture for you. You're taking in 1,200 calories, but you're actually only burning 1,200 calories a day, right? And these are just raw examples, but they're things that I see as a coach. So what do we do to combat this? First of all, I don't want you to eat 800 calories, okay? That is not something that I think should be expected. However, when I find that someone gets their calories at or below 10 times their body weight in pounds, so if you're a 150-pound athlete and I have to get your calories to 1,500 pounds, what do I do to protect your metabolism, your well-being, and keep weight loss going? I start to pay attention to high calorie days, right? We start to have either refeeds or diet breaks. Now, I've done extensive videos on these, but a brief overview is that for a short period of time, 1 day, 2 days, maybe a week, maybe longer, we're gonna bring calories up to what our expected maintenance is, usually through increasing carbohydrates, and we're gonna decrease our activity down to what our maintenance should be. For me, that's usually reducing cardio by about 50%. If I have someone doing 5 sessions a week of an hour of cardio, I might drop for 5 days for 30 minutes. If they're at, let's say, 1,500 calories trying to lose weight, I might bring those calories up to 1,900 for that week. Okay, that diet break week or those refeed days if we're doing those. And the bulk of that would be in the form of carbohydrates. So if we're bringing up somebody's carbohydrates and they're up 400 calories, that's pretty easy. That is 100 grams of carbs higher that day, right? So these minor changes are gonna protect us against this adaptive thermogenesis over time. Now, I coach bodybuilders who get leaner than most people ever need to get, okay? I myself diet down and do bodybuilding shows. How come I'm able to diet down, get my athletes shredded, and keep them leaner and not have problems after the diet? How come I myself at 48 years old and a lifetime natural bodybuilder, I'm able to stay leaner than I ever have? Because while I have dieted my athletes and while I diet myself, I use these practices, diet breaks, refeeds, recovery weeks, to protect myself from this adaptive thermogenesis or starvation mode. Because you're not actually in starvation mode, you're just not actually creating a caloric deficit because you've adapted your metabolism, you've adapted your basal metabolic rate, and you're more efficient at your activities, or some other variety of this. Also, you have to remember, non-exercise activity makes up the largest portion of our calorie burning throughout the day. What is non-exercise activity? It's my hands moving here. If you were to see me in a state where I am very low body fat, very low calorie, some things would change about my demeanor. I would be more monotone, my hands wouldn't be moving. This is called conservation of energy, and this conservation of energy goes well beyond that. You might take less walks with your dog. You might not play ping pong anymore. You might not go walk your kid to school. You might let them opt to ride the bus. Whatever it is, you don't even realize it. You get up out of your chair less times per day. You start to conserve energy. So now you are burning less calories throughout the day, and even though you think you're consuming less calories, well, you're actually not in a deficit, and that's what determines fat loss. So you're not in starvation mode. You've just probably put yourself in a position where it's going to become extremely challenging because you haven't necessarily taken the steps to get there. Now, guys, this is what I do. I've been doing it for more than a decade full time. If you need help, please reach out to me directly. We can set up a consult at no cost. I'll put that link below. But the goal for me is to give you guys the tools to do this yourself, and hopefully this helps. But again, I can only help you if you ask the questions. This was a great one, so thank you. Ask your questions in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.